Welcome to Leading While Human, a space where we explore the evolution of leadership rooted in belonging, courage, and people first practices. This is Sean Gaillard. I am here with my ride or die bandmate, Sonia Matthew, and we are very, very fortunate to have. You know what, Julia? You're like my Beatles sister. So
That's right.
yeah, so that's what we're going to call it. We'll kind of explain a little bit more of what all that means in the course of our conversation. But today we welcome Julia Bialeski. She is an educator. She is an author, district leader, and champion for hope, authenticity, and people-centered leadership. She's the author of the book Leading with Grace: Cultivating Hope, Authenticity, and a focus on people throughout the leadership lifespan. Welcome, Julia, and I'm going to turn things over to Sonia to take a deeper dive into your biography. Oh, you're on mute, my friend. That's okay. We're human. This is Lady Wild
Well, that's
Human.
the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Julia. We are so excited that you are here with us. And I am just so tickled pink that we are neighbors. We're both here in Maryland and we
That's
have some
right.
common friends. Shout out to Rachel Edewekan and Ed Constantino, and I'm
Mhm.
sure many other Maryland friends. So we are so excited to have you, Rachel. I'm sorry, Julia. Julia, we are so excited to have you. I just want to read a little bit about your bio and who you are to our viewers. So for more than 20 years, Julia Bialeski, did I say it right, Julia?
Perfect.
Okay, has served public education in a variety of leadership roles, including teacher, instructional specialist, assistant principal, shout out assistant principals,
Whoop whoop.
principal, and district leader. Now, she is the recipient of the 2025 University of Maryland College of Education Outstanding Alumni Award. Congratulations. You
Thank
were
you.
recognized for your leadership, innovation, and impact. Let me say that again, Sean. Recognized. Julia was recognized for her leadership, innovation, and impact. And I know that impact is very much around human centered approaches. Julia is the author, speaking of human centered approaches, of the book Leading with Grace. Hold it on up. Leading with Grace. I'm going to get my copy today.
Thank you.
Cultivating hope, authenticity, and a focus on people throughout the leadership lifespan. A book that has become a valued resource for aspiring and experienced leaders alike. So, Julia is known for connecting with audiences through engaging personal stories. She is driven by her personal and professional mantra: be brave and care about people. I love that. I love that. We talked about that today, right, Sean,
Yes,
about
we did.
taking those steps that cause us to be brave and might not be the norm, but it puts people first.
That's
So I'm
right.
just so delighted that that is Julia's professional mantra. Today, Julia serves as a coordinator of recruitment and hiring for a large, high-performing public school district right here in Maryland, where she leads recruitment and retention efforts supporting 78 schools and more than 57,000 students.
Mm.
She brings a passion for educator well-being into every aspect of her work. Again, Julia, we are so excited that you are here. And I'm going to start us off with our first question. And of course, it's all about human centered leadership. So tell us why human centered leadership matters. And I want you to specifically, of course, tie it to your role as someone who coordinates recruitment and hiring efforts in such a large district
Yeah.
where I think we can all agree that people can become numbers. So,
Mm,
why is it that human-centered leadership matters right now to you in your current role?
Yeah. Well, wow. Thank you, first of all, for that intro. That was amazing. There are so many directions I could go with this question, but I think in the role, when we think about the climate and the landscape really in public education in 2026, and in the role that I have now, being responsible for leading the recruitment and hiring efforts for our district for all of our positions, we know that it is a buyer's market out there for those of us working in education, particularly for our teachers, for our support staff, for our related service providers. People have a lot of choices about where they can go, and they have a lot of options out there. So we really need to lean into the human side of leadership in all of our roles, in district leadership, in school leadership, in the classroom, in order to make our districts, our schools, an attractive place for people to come.
Mm.
It's also very intimidating to people to get a job. And what I've learned in coming into this role by way of the principalship and 20 years in school-based roles is that it still feels very mysterious to people how to navigate getting a job in public education. Everything from serving as a substitute teacher or a paraprofessional or a teacher or an administrator, a district leader, it feels very mysterious to people. And that can feel really intimidating. So when you find someone who you can connect with,
Yes.
when you meet someone, whether it's you meet them at a recruitment event at a university or out in the community, or you meet them in the checkout line and you get to talking and you learn that they work in a school system. I think what I love about my role is that I have the opportunity with every person who I interact with to represent our district and to represent our profession. Like even thinking beyond my job, the why of why I do my job is because I'm passionate about the longevity and sustainability of our profession as public educators. And I know that we need people who are passionate about that, who
Mm.
are being really intentional about what we do today and the legacy we're building behind us so that people continue to want to come into our field and they continue to want to lead in our field because it's not getting easier. And if I had to guess or put money on it, I would think it's not going to get any easier. It's only going to continue to get more and more challenging. And so we need people who are driven to service and people who are, um, you know, really intrinsically motivated
Mm.
to devote their life and career to supporting children and communities, to see that it is worth it for them to face those challenges and to enter into that environment. So I think people are at the center of everything we do in education. And even when we go into human resources, when we choose to do that work in education, we
Yes.
are choosing that for a reason. And we are there to continue to nurture that culture of being focused on people, the human side, even in what can often feel very transactional because some of the nature of the work is transactional.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think about like the work of transactional leadership is really the easy work.
Yes.
And it's easy, it gets it done, and we can move forward quickly and preserve our own like those soft skills. We can preserve them because we're not having to do that hard work, right? We don't always think about the work of Lisa Delpit, a classic. Other people's children. These are other people's children. Even when we're dealing with adults, they're still our children at the end of the day that who we're serving. So that passion piece that you spoke about is definitely the key. It's definitely the key. So thank you for serving in your role and believing that. And then, like you said, looking for people who are driven by service. I love that. It's so encouraging to me as a school system leader. So
Mhm.
thank you for that so much, Julia.
It really is encouraging. And I'm like, as I'm hearing you share this, Julia, I'm like, I want to go to your district. I want to work with you.
No.
Like you, I'm really, it's rare to hear folks talk about people centeredness the way that you do it, and I think some of that, in fact, I know some of that has to do with the fact that we both grew up on the Beatles, and we're both fans, and that's, we met last, year and a half or so ago when you were a guest on my Why the Beatles Matter podcast. And the thing about the Beatles is that they they were very conscious of fans. They were very conscious of that support. And were very endeared by that. So some of their biggest hits, there was an intentionality there. She loves you. I want to hold your hand. I feel fine. All of those songs were intentional for the fans. And then also, as we get into the latter part of the Beatles, recording career, they begin to look inward. Some of that had to do with transcendental meditation. Some of it had to do with the stage that they were in life. You yourself are named after a Beatles song. John Lennon wrote the song Julia for his mother, and partly for his soon to be wife Yoko. And I think some of that music, some of that ethos, I think is rubbed off on your leadership.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't think I realized it, as I was evolving because like to me, we cannot talk about human-centered leadership without looking at ourselves and like seeing ourselves as humans first. And I wish we had hit record a couple minutes before we did because Sonia, you were sharing something so
Yes.
vulnerable about how it took you a long time. I hope this is okay to repeat. It took you
Yes.
a long time to feel like you wanted to put yourself out there. And the older I get and the longer I do this work, the more I realize I think every single one of us is in that place in some way.
Right on,
And the
sister.
more we talk about it and the more we normalize it, that we're
Hmm.
all just walking around struggling with the same things.
Hmm.
The longer we do this work, the more we realize nobody has it all figured out. And that hopefully builds confidence in us that, you know, I don't have to be perfect. No one's expecting me to be perfect. And so the evolution of my leadership was not this great intentional like blueprint that I had a checklist and I was just it has evolved as I have evolved and grown as a person and become
Yes.
more comfortable with who I am and who I'm not. So you Sonia, you talked about the transactional work can be easier to do. And I mentioned that I came into my current role by way of the principalship and everything that I experienced every day as an assistant principal and and principal was nuanced, unique, contextual in nature, and I loved that. That was so it was just what gave me life about those jobs, and it's very emotionally and mentally draining at the same time. So a misconception that I had when I transitioned into my current role, I saw human resources and I thought it's going to be black and white. Everything's going to fit in a box. It's going to be like, I learned very quickly that I was wrong, that it was not like that, and that there is still a lot of nuance.
Yeah.
And at first, I was sort of surprised and I thought, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But then I realized this is why I'm here because I can sort of bridge the people focus that I had in my previous roles into something that I alone perceived as being very transactional, black and white, no room for gray area and nuance. And I can kind of marry the like compliance side of the work with the human side of the work in a way that hopefully will make our district stand out, in the bigger picture, but also that will help the team that I'm here to lead. I have 13 people on my team who work incredibly hard and in work that is quite thankless, right? They don't get hugs from children every morning. They
Yeah.
don't get to see the fruits of their labor. They tend, like in anything that's sort of customer service related work, to hear from the people who are unhappy. The people who are
Hmm.
happy are usually not taking the time to reach out, right? And so I can bring that to them and help them to see the value in their work. On the days when it's hard for them to see that. But, you know, I guess the message I'm trying to share with anyone who might be listening is that you hear us having these types of conversations and it could feel like, well, I don't know how to get there. And I didn't know how to get there either. I just kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other every day and being really
Yeah.
reflective and learning from my experiences. And so it's also so valuable sometimes to hear things like that, Sean, how other people experience you. And so
Mhm.
when you are willing to be vulnerable and open to listen to how other people are experiencing you, you can learn so much, whether it's something that's hard to hear or something like what Sean shared that is lovely to hear. And if you just sit with it and reflect on it, then you can continue to build and grow from there. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to take some of those things, and you might start to see me writing about them or, speaking about them in other instances because I find that so valuable to get to hear from other people how they experience us. And to me, again, that is like the center of people focused leadership. I am a human being. I need to be constantly evolving and growing and open to what other people are, how other people are experiencing me, if I want them to be able to do the same.
Right on. Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing that.
I love like the sitting with it and just thinking about and reflecting on how the person in front of us, that's another person too, going through their own challenges and trying to figure things out. But if we keep that human element out, it's not going to work. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
hasn't been working. And like you said, this is a buyer's market. I mean, how are we going to solve this problem if we're not advancing our work through the human first approach? So it's just so great to have other people in this work with us, right? It really is. It's just so it feels good and it feels right. It feels right. So with that, what is keeping you in this work, Julia? Because it's like you said, we're all working incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And even when you are seeking out those folks in the supermarket and looking at that talent, right? And looking at who would be a good fit, even like with our teacher shortage, like
Yeah.
how are we thinking about the best people in front of our students with people who have, changed careers and looking to come in the classroom? What is it that's keeping you motivated to continue to be brave in your quest to care for people and then retain them in the ways that you believe in leading with grace and whatnot?
Yeah, I think what keeps me motivated, something that I love about working in public education is when we're ready to try something new and to be challenged, there are always opportunities for us. And that can
Mm,
look a lot of different ways. Um, when you're teaching, it can look like changing grade levels or content areas or changing schools within your district, or, if you work in an area where you're working in smaller districts, it could look like going to another district to get a change there. Um, as leaders, it can look like changing locations. Sometimes um, I think we're conditioned to always think we have to be sort of, I love the analogy of the career ladder versus a lattice approach. Like we are really kind of brought up in education, like there's kind of two tracks. You start doing something and you do that for 30 years and then you retire, or you kind of get on this traditional career ladder in education where you go from teacher to building administrator. And then if you aspire to be a principal and you keep going. But I don't feel like anyone ever said to me, you can also decide what you want to do. So I found that myself. And what I love about education is there are so many ways that we can serve children in education. And when you need a little refresher, when you need a little reset, you can find something to do that allows you to remain within education. Um, and serve in a different way for a period of time. I've always looked at my career like I am not married to it. This is the role that I have right now, and maybe in 3 years there will be something else that I'm interested in doing. And for me, that keeps me really motivated. The other thing that keeps me really motivated is to your point about finding people, like-minded people. And sometimes we can do that in our own buildings. I find, and both of you as school-based administrators maybe have experienced, when you transition into school-based leadership, it can be very, very lonely.
Yes.
And I was always a team of one. When I was an assistant principal, I was the only assistant principal. When
Yeah.
I was a principal, obviously, I was the only principal. And different people have different experiences, but that can be very lonely work. So finding people who are doing similar work, maybe not in your building, can really, really help to sustain that motivation. And then just the world is opened up to us now with, we talked a little bit before we started recording about, finding cohorts of like-minded people through social media
Yes.
or through listening to podcasts, through engaging, going to conferences and meeting people. I'm part of an affinity group for women in education. You find these ways to connect with people, and I never leave an interaction in any one of those spaces not feeling more motivated than when I started it, whether it was, just a quick conversation or going to a conference and coming back after a couple of days, like re-energized. Um, and then as I get older, as we get more experience in our careers, the other piece that keeps me motivated is finding ways to pour into the generation that's coming up behind us. Um, I just feel like it's such an amazing gift to be at a point in my career where people might see me as a mentor, or people might view me as a resource for them. So getting involved with my alumni association from the College of Education has been extremely fulfilling for me because there's nothing that gives you more hope, in my opinion, than meeting a 20-year-old who is about to embark on their career as a teacher, and you are reminded of how you felt at that time in your career. And so if you are feeling a little jaded, or maybe you're hearing those voices around you, having that opportunity to interact with aspiring teachers or, early career teachers, it really does remind you of why you got into the work in the first place. And then it gives you your own boost while you're also hopefully able to be, a support and a resource for them at the same time. It's terrific.
Love that. And I just wonder, what are people doing if they don't have the connections or they don't
Yeah.
want the connections,
Yeah.
right? People think there's people out here who think I'm crazy because I'm on social media.
Yeah.
Why are you wasting your time? What are you doing? What is the purpose, right? And exactly what you said. You have the gift of being able to impact through your your whole existence as a leader and what you stand for and what you do. That is a gift that we're able to share on social media, and the encouragement that comes through the comments of other, as you said, like-minded people. People are missing out. Social media, even with X. No, I did not get out of X. I know that's a different story for you, Sean, because you were
Yeah.
kind of forced out. But I will stay, and we talked about it, the algorithms. I'm not sure if we talked about it. We talked about it earlier, Sean, with algorithms. You're getting the people on your feed and the messages on your feed based on your engagement. So I'm not, necessarily being exposed to some of that toxic stuff on X, and we have the right to block and unfollow and all of that. Yeah, so it's critical building, and that's what definitely would keep us motivated. It makes sense, right? But I wonder
Yeah.
about the people who are not joining that bandwagon. I wonder, you know.
I think some of it with social media, as I'm thinking right now, like, about a month from now, roughly, give or take a day or two, I'm going to be able to meet Julia in person.
Mm.
And probably we wouldn't have met
Yep.
in person had we not connected through social media.
Mhm.
I've adopted her mother as like my Beatles mom. So and I mean it. Like if I'm in the D.C. area, sure, I'm gonna go to Carroll County, Howard County, Columbia, whatever to see
Mhm.
you two, but I really want to see Julia's mom, as well. I adore her, and none of that would have happened. I think again, that's just a real basic human trait that we want to matter and we want to matter. We want others to know that they matter to us, and so yeah, this isn't 5,000 years ago where we may have gathered around a campfire and traded stories about the Trojan War with Homer. I think social media is just a different kind of campfire and a different kind of pathway to help us create and sustain very human connections that we all need. We all need to matter, and we all want
Crown.
others to know that they matter. So now speaking of mattering, Julia, there's two lightning round questions that we want to know, and I know our listeners and viewers, want to know, how you matter in these responses. So I'm going to share the first one. It's easy. All the answers are right, and because you're
Good.
right and you're awesome, so there will be no arcane Beatles trivia questions. That'll be
Good. I appreciate that.
yeah,
Don't put me on
I
the
won't do
spot.
that to you.
Yeah.
We'll do it when we see each other in Orlando.
Yeah.
But anyway, what is one practice or habit or mindset that helps you stay human in your leadership?
Oh, wow. One practice or habit. I think this might be too general, but at the core, I have to take care of myself first. I
Right
have
on,
learned
sister.
again and again the value of taking care of myself physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the ways first, so that I can show up for other people. I have a million examples. You're both nodding, so I'm sure you do too, of times in my life when I have not been doing that, how it has negatively impacted my leadership and other people around me. So I have completely let go and rejected the idea of prioritizing my sleep, my well-being, to having time to exercise, time outside, time away from work, all of those things.
Mhm.
I reject the idea that it's selfish or that it's not giving fully of myself, because I know that the importance of that. So that is, I guess maybe I'll call that a mindset,
I'll take
of the
it.
three things that you said. Yeah.
Right on. Okay,
Right
Sonia.
on. Could not agree more. So, Julia, the question that we have here for the next lightning round question, you answered by telling us, because the question was, what gives you hope right now? And you
Hmm.
answered that so eloquently
Yeah.
by speaking of the gift that you give, that you're able to be a mentor to others. So, I'm going to ask you a different lightning round question. And that is, what discourages you on the day to day? What is that one thing that and maybe you can give us a couple of things that do, and I know that you may not stay discouraged, but what are
Hmm.
those things that just really frustrate you or discourage you in your work?
Um, I think something that's discouraging, and it's been discouraging in every role that I've had, so I think it's pretty universal for us in education, is just that the nature of our work will never be done. And
Oh my gosh.
I've only worked in education, so I don't really know how this compares to being an accountant or an attorney or an engineer or any other many thousands
So
of jobs
true.
that we could have chosen. But
Yeah.
uh, and discouraging is a hard word for me to say. That might be a little too strong of a word, but the biggest challenge I think of our work is like it will never be done. There could be 300 hours in a day and 14 days in a week and 150 months in a year, and our work will never be done. And so we never get to a point where we feel caught up. We never get to a point where we feel like we can just maintain the status quo, because our work is human centered, because we are in a people business,
Yeah.
because children are humans and they are going to bring their human selves into schools each and every day, and we cannot
Mhm.
predict how they're going to respond and what circumstances are going to come to us. And because education is like the little epicenter of everything that's happening in the country and society in the world at any given time, all of that stuff is going to impact our work. And so it makes it challenging, and it gives me hope. I'm going to cheat on this answer a little bit, because it's like the people who are here are people who really want to like make the future better, make society better, make the world a better place. And that's also why it's really challenging. It's like we have to kind of be able to walk that tightrope at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's why your role is so important because individually you're getting those people, you're retaining them, you're recruiting them, but it's a multiplication effect in leadership. So we're trying to multiply what is good. And so if we can build those teams, that's going to make the work easier. But a lot of it is what we spoke about when we think about transactional leadership and those technical things versus those adaptive aspects of our work. That mindset of, okay, are we all in it in the same, are we all in it for the same reasons? Do we all have that shared mindset? And are we moving forward? So that's why thinking about that individually when we're putting these people in these positions, but then how is that collectively going to help us perhaps not be so, the challenges not be so great. So thank you for that. And again, thank you for the incredible work that you're doing right here in Maryland. It's an honor to be in this state, and I look forward to staying connected more, especially here locally. No,
I
no
know.
offense to North Carolina,
I
Sean,
know.
Okay.
Yeah,
but Maryland, we got it going on.
we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You really do. I used to live in Maryland, so I am missing it, and I may have to move back.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you all do have just a really neat community that is tight, and it's North Carolina doesn't compare. So I wish I had some of what you all have and that kinship down here. I mean, not to knock the state, but that's just the reality of it. So, Julia, thank you so much for joining us today and really reminding us of what it means to not only lead while human, but to also move through grace and hope and authenticity and caring deeply about people. If you all are really interested in learning more about Julia, of course, I'll put all of her socials and her website, on our show notes. But I highly recommend that you pick up her wonderful book. It's a great summer read book. It's a great book for a book club. Leading with Grace, Cultivating Hope, Authenticity, and a Focus on People throughout the leadership lifespan. And then also, if you do go to Julia's website, she's got a really neat newsletter that can come your way every week, and it is just got so much wisdom and so many just authentic moves that you can do to lead better, live better, and connect better with others. So be sure to go to juliabialeski.com, and you can connect with her on LinkedIn, Instagram, and all the things. So Julia, thank you so much, my friend, and I look forward to finally meeting you in person at ISTE ASCD Orlando.
That's right. I'm so thankful to both of you for having me. I can't wait to meet you in person, Sean. And now, Sonia, we aren't far, so we have no excuse not to meet in person
Yeah.
soon, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Likewise.
y'all just get on the BW Parkway
Parkway.
and just make it happen, or
That's
get on
right.
a Mark train, or whatever y'all need to do. And yeah, you guys are neighbors, so yeah, y'all need to meet for coffee.
Mhm. Awesome.
Well, this is Leading While Human. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Be sure to follow Julia again, and thank you for tuning in. And we look forward to catching you on the next episode on the flip side.